I'd like to begin today by introducing Kyle Allen, who is sitting as a replacement for Clay Morgan, who stepped down. Kyle, would you like to take a minute to introduce yourself?
Good evening. I am Kyle Allen. I live in Knightstown, moved back out to Knightstown where my wife grew up a couple of years ago, and have always been interested in government, politics, and it just happened to be the right opportunity to get involved. I'm very thankful, very excited to be here, and I look forward to getting to know everybody. I am an attorney, for better or for worse, but that's not why I'm here. That's not what I'm doing on the council. I'm here to listen and work with everybody and offer whatever 2 cents I have to the council, and hopefully we've got a good several years ahead of us together as far as my term goes, for next 3, I believe. So thank you, Susan.
Thank you very much. We are going to now vote to select a chair and vice chair for the county council. I wanted to just take a moment to thank Chad for sitting as vice chair. Last year, he did an excellent job and is very knowledgeable of the county finances, and I think he would do a great job as chair. I also appreciate Kenan Gray, who has mentioned his interest, and he has dedicated so much time to our council work, and I think he would do a great job also. So I'd like to open up the floor for a nomination for the county council president.
I'll jump in here with discussion. When I think of who the MVPs of our council are, I think of Chad and I think of Kenan and what they bring to the table. They are both really smart guys in very different ways, and if you knew how much work they put in, you'd give them a big hug and a big high five. I think either of them would be great as president. I think Susan has also done an awesome job. I would hope that whoever is elected would, the other would serve as vice president or consider that. With all that having been said, I will move to nominate Chad Malakote for president.
Thank you, Betsy. Is there a second? And I would make a second to nominate Chad. Is there further discussion? We have a motion and a second to nominate Chad Malakote as president. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And those opposed?
No.
So the motion does not carry. Is there another motion on the floor to nominate a president to chair the council?
I would like to nominate Kenan Gray for the position of president.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So Chad, Betsy, and I voted in favor, and Peg and Kyle voted against. And Harold, did you abstain or did you vote? Voted no. So we have, so the motion does not carry. Okay. You just needed it for your notes. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, and we have a motion by Peg to nominate Kenan. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll vote aye.
Okay, congratulations, Kenan. We appreciate you being willing to sit as chair. And now we would like to elect the vice chair. Is there a motion?
Nominate Chad Malakote.
Second.
Declined.
Okay. Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to throw their hat in the ring? I had not heard from anyone else about interest. Because Chad is not interested, I would be willing to sit as vice chair, but only if there's not someone else. Chad, would you like a moment to reconsider, or is there anyone else who would like to, is interested in sitting as vice chair? Sure. Okay. But that wasn't a motion. So the floor is open for another motion to elect a vice president.
I'll nominate Susan Hoon.
I second.
Is there further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. So Ken and I would be proud to serve as your vice chair, and I will now turn over the reins to you and switch chairs with you, if that's okay.
Do I have a choice? Okay, next on the agenda is EDC update from Corey Murphy, who's passing out handouts.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you. Talking to my colleagues across the state, I'm appreciative of the hospitality of our local government, both the commissioners and the county council, to be able to appear before you on a regular basis and give you an update. It doesn't happen in every county, in every community, so thank you. I handed out our annual investors newsletter. So as you know, we are a public-private organization. We're a not-for-profit, but our funding and our governance comes from local government and the private sector, and community volunteers. So in our annual request for investors on the private side, we put together this publication. It's also available online, but it provides an overview of the last year and a little bit of a look forward. I was making sure it wasn't mine. They probably wanted to check on your car warranty. So, St. Patrick's Day of 2021, many of you gathered. It was pretty cold and windy that day, but we broke ground on the spec building. And it too is a public-private partnership through the County Redevelopment Commission with support from elected officials. We went out in the marketplace and we looked for a developer. We hired a developer, they broke ground. That building is substantially complete now. Per the contract and per the plan, the Redevelopment Commission will buy that probably in the next 30 days. I can tell you that the shell building is doing its job. We had a site visit on December 28th. In the subsequent week, we learned that we were on the short list for that project. And then just last week, we had another site visit for a totally unrelated project. Now, both of those could fall apart tomorrow. But they wouldn't have come to our community if we wouldn't have had that product. The site visit that occurred yesterday They also looked at some vacant ground in the industrial park. So they were evaluating, do we want an existing building, or do we want to build our own from the ground up? So we continue to be aggressive because of your leadership on the business attraction front. I want to switch gears to tourism just for a moment because I'm using this as a speaking guide. So destination development efforts launched, the brand, basketball lives here, the website hoopsinhenry.com. I shared with the commissioners last night, and I apologize to those in the room that have to hear it again, but it's a great story. College football championship was hosted in Indianapolis, and it was Georgia and Alabama. CBS 46, so the Atlanta news station, did a live shot at 6 p.m. From where? The Hoosier Gym. Can't buy that. You can't buy that coverage. And so basketball does truly live here. And we're not just about basketball. In a future update, I'm going to show you an advertorial that'll appear in our regional magazine, and it's all about the outdoor recreational opportunities. It's about Summit Lake. It's about Westwood. It's about the Red Trail Conservancy properties in our area. So there are tons of opportunity and reasons for to visit our community, but it also plays in well with the quality of life, which leads right back to talent attraction and recruitment. So bookmark, share, link, hoopsinhenry.com. That is the tourism visitor website. It's a phase 1 launch. Like all websites, it'll be a work in progress for a long time. But we're excited about that. I hope you've seen the billboards around town. We've got one on 3, we've got one on 40, and we've got one on 36, and then one going up out on I-70. If you open the page, left-hand column, just a quick recap. Tom's Corporation took a vacant building on 109. Ward Wildman spoke at our board meeting a couple months ago, and he shared there at a public forum. They're aiming to be at 100 people by the end of this year, if all things hold with their business plan. And that's a type of manufacturing that is new for our county. It's medical device. And I'm continually, it's a chuckle, I guess, when they're headquartered in Connecticut. And when they issued the press release on this Indiana location, they described the location of Knightstown as near Warsaw, Indiana. Because Warsaw, Indiana is the medical device capital of the world. And to them, Knightstown is close to Warsaw. And so that's what brought them here. We happen to have the product and the workforce to convince them to locate here. There's a tremendous asset along the State Road 109 corridor. And I'll just put this slight plug, and I didn't say this yesterday at the commissioners, so there's something new. Another reason to continue to pursue water and sewer up the 109 corridor. Another reason. BCW Supplies, that's up in Middletown on 236. Former Liebhart Mills, vacant. BCW is a family-owned company located in Anderson. They wanted to stay in Anderson. We don't poach. They came to us because they couldn't find anything in Anderson. They had a site selection consultant that identified this building. It's close enough. They needed to grow. They're hiring. Parking lot looks full. And then the expansion at TS Tech. So if you add all those jobs up, well over 200. Well over 200 promised jobs coming to the county last year. It's a phenomenal year. You go over on the right-hand side, and through your leadership and willingness and everybody's partnership, we applied for the Okra COVID grant, and we're able to distribute $268,750 to small businesses all across Henry County. Penny continues to work hard on the EPA grant. The county authorized a third application. We don't know the status of that, but I can tell you that the leverage on the EPA grant for $400,000, we've already leveraged 1.4 in private investment. Any questions? And then I want to introduce an expansion project that I'm going to need your consideration on.
Any questions from the council? I have one. Was that 260,000 Ochre grant? That was with the assistance of ARA, was it not? Is that the one that ARA was involved in helping?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, ARA was your grant administrator. We were, the Economic Development Corporation was a sub-recipient on that. We served as your distribution agent, and then you all supplied the match.
So our agreeing to hire ARA to assist us with grants last year was perhaps a good investment if it helped yield 260,000 Ochre grant.
I am very pleased that ARA was at the table with us on that project. My experience with ARA goes back almost 20 years. You can't find a better organization, in my opinion.
We budgeted to keep them around for 2022, so it's in the budget to continue work with them.
Yeah.
And they're helping the commissioners, I heard last night, on the owner-occupied grant that was approved by Ochre, which is another $250,000, so over $500,000 total, with ARA as a grant administrators.
I suspect the leverage there is good.
Any other questions for Corey from the council? Do you have something else you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I'm referring to the white page with the yellow highlight. The timing of this announcement was in collaboration and with the permission of the company proposing to make the investment. So that's why it was tonight and maybe not last night or tomorrow. There's a redevelopment commission meeting tomorrow. This was a negotiated conversation based on the timeline of everything, and I asked and recommended that it would be helpful if we could do a public announcement of this potential project. And then, like I have done in the past with you all, I kind of lay out the roadmap, and we can proceed if you're in agreement. I'll start with the only thing I'm asking for tonight is you authorize me or Mr. Harvey or the auditor or someone to coordinate a special public joint work session. I'll do that one more time. Special public joint work session. Why do I say joint? Because it involves more than the county council. It would involve the county commissioners. It would also involve the county redevelopment commission. So we would want to construct the notice in such a way that would allow all of those bodies to come together to hear more from me, unfortunately, but also Baker Tilly and Ice Miller. So the purpose of the work session is to provide dialogue and Q&A on the proposed incentive recommendation. And I'm going to say right now, I'm not going to go into great detail on the incentive recommendation. I'm going to give you a very quick description and just say, let's bring in the experts. Let's bring in Ice Miller and Baker Tilly, and you can ask all the questions you want, and we can go into great detail. And the reason why I don't want to do that is because the way I explain things may not be exactly the way Miss Lee explains things, and we probably just ought to let her explain it. Translation, I make attorneys nervous when I start explaining these things, and there's no need to make attorneys nervous. The company is Boar's Head. they are proposing basically from a practical purposes, the doubling of their original processing facility. It's a $126 million capital investment. The breakdown on that investment is $61 million in building and $65 million in equipment. Another term for equipment is personal property. Plant expansion, it's approximately 136,000 square foot. If you look on the stapled, I basically went into GIS and I did a screenshot and I put an arrow where that expansion would go. Job creation is 120 new jobs by June of 2024. If all goes well, they want to break ground May. Wages are very similar to what we've heard in the past. It's $19 plus hour, $19 plus dollars an hour. That number does not include the benefit package. The activity there is deli processing facility. The historical performance since 2014, they've invested over $100 million, and they have approximately 540 people. The incentive recommendation is a tax increment economic development commission bond. It is the same structure that the county did in 2014, with the exception of there's not a request for abatement. Really. So here's the very quick explanation of how that works. The investment is made. There is a negotiation on the value of that investment. There's also a conversation yet to be had with the county assessor. Conversations were had with the county assessor on previous projects. Once those numbers are agreed to, there is basically a bond amount or a mortgage that can be sold. The revenue to pay that bond is Boar's Head taxes, and only Boar's Head taxes. It is not being backed up by any other source of revenue. Now, if you go on to the DLGF, it's going to show up as county debt. That's just the way that reporting system works. It is not county debt. The county is simply the conduit. If the taxes aren't paid, the bond payments aren't made, and there's no recourse. We're not asking for a pledge of any other funds. It's what I would describe as a self-funding incentive. The role of the county council, because it is a bond issue, the role of the county council is to give approval, or not, for this structure. I've laid out kind of the high-level overview of the process. With your permission, we'll schedule that special joint public work session the week of February 7th. And then we would introduce a bond ordinance at your February 24th meeting. And then we would ask you to take action at your March 24th meeting. In between that, there is a body known as the Economic Development Commission that is not the same as my organization. It has the same initials, it's not the same. The Economic Development Commission would hold a hearing and make a recommendation to the county. The Redevelopment Commission gets involved because they pledge the tax increment to the bond. That detailed procedural timetable will be shared with you by the county's professional team at the work session. I'm just kind of giving you the high-level overview. The other item at the bottom is I would just seek your support that I'll work with Mr. Harvey to confirm the appointments of the Economic Development Commission. It's in place, it's been created, it has members. We just need to figure out who appointed and work with the entities that made the appointment and make sure we're okay. Our team at the Economic Development Corporation happened to be here in late 2013 when what we didn't know at the time, it was Project MW16. Turned out to be Boar's Head. And we knew you often hear me describe this as blind dating. And once the blind dating kind of went away and we figured out who we were working with and the nature of their investment, here's what I mean by the nature of the investment. This company was founded in 1905. The Newcastle processing facility is their first build-to-suit facility in the company's history. They have other locations. They got a location in Arkansas, they got 2 in Virginia, they got 1 in Michigan. They're all retrofit. In other words, they took an existing building and they adjusted. We were competing for an opportunity to what I'll call, they may not call it, but what I'll call the manufacturing flagship of their company. When we did the deal in 2014, and I realized many of you weren't in your chairs, we wanted this day to happen. We wanted to be in a position to compete for this additional investment. That's why they got so much land. And that's why when you look at the aerial, we were thinking ahead. I'll pause and be happy to answer any questions. And I don't know if you need to take a vote on authorizing the coordination of said special meeting, but I'll leave that to you all.
That is probably the best news that we've heard economically in some time. I know since many of us, you alluded to, have been on for a total of 3 years and a total of 1 hour. That's the best news that I think we've heard in a long time. That $126 million investment expansion from Boar's Head is outstanding news for our community. Thank you for sharing that. Joel, do we need any kind of motion on a...
Other than to direct maybe myself and Corey to work with the auditor and come up with a date, time for the joint meeting that we're going to have.
So you suggest that be a motion? Someone make a motion
Someone make a motion
to
to
occur?
that effect.
I move to authorize Joel and Corey and other necessary parties to meet in order to coordinate this meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of them moving forward according to the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Same. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Move forward.
Appreciate that. We don't want to coordinate calendars today. I've done that recently. It's not fun as a food and beverage meeting. I can give an update on that if you want, but that's up to you.
Well, yes, please do, because I think it's of great interest since the final body to decide what they share is us. I know Susan was at the meeting, Ed Tarantino was at the meeting, I was at the meeting in Knightstown, but Susan, unless you want to pipe in.
No, we'll let Corey do it, straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah. Sorry, Debbie. Sorry, Bobby. I know.
Not that anybody is watching the clock.
Commissioner Plummer is the official timekeeper tonight.
Well, anyway, on the date, and I'm not asking that you coordinate. We'll follow up. But the leading candidate right now, and these dates were largely determined by Baker Tilly and Eismiller. It's February 8th, and we're looking like at a noon time. Now we can adjust that, and I'll follow up with some other options. But it's the week of February 7th. But the leading horse right now is February 8th. And
Yes, coming later, we've had a change of time in our meetings, but I don't think that's going to affect what you're talking about.
are you changing your day?
No, it's still Thursday, just
All right.
an earlier time, so
Okay, fine,
department,
cool.
that'll come later on the agenda.
Yeah. Changing the days is great, it's just, it would edit the timetable, that's all. All right, food and beverage. I really didn't want to do this, I shouldn't have offered. Can you get me out of it? Okay. 32 applications, 13.3 million. The Food and Beverage Advisory Committee met over in Knightstown on Tuesday. The primary purpose of the meeting was to confirm the process in which these applications would be reviewed and the process in which the committee would construct its recommendations. The committee voted to have a recommendation to you by your March meeting. The committee voted to use a score sheet. I'll send that to you. Essentially, we have 5 or 6 questions that we'll let the applicants know. Here's what we're going to be looking at when we score your proposal. We're going to score them after doing 2 things. 1, reviewing the written submission. 2, listening to the presentation. We did eliminate 3 projects. The committee felt like the 3 projects that were eliminated did not meet what I would describe as minimum threshold criteria. And the minimum threshold criteria would be, does the project or is the project connected to tourism and or economic development? I've heard some feedback and some suggestions from interested parties. There are a lot of interested parties. And maybe there were some other projects that we should have eliminated. And I can just tell you that I thought going through one by one and giving the committee members an opportunity to make a motion to strike or make a motion to eliminate was pretty fair. And I raised some questions about some projects, but didn't feel led to make a motion. So we're going to move forward with those 29 proposals. We have 4 dates set out. I am working with a videographer, local small business that will, if we can come to terms, that will film, record, and so if a committee member can't be there, the committee will decide, okay, you couldn't be there, but you can watch it, and you have to have your score in by a certain date. We're going to try to stream. But when I was talking to the videographer, the first priority is to have it filmed with good video and good sound. The second priority is to stream. I don't know whether we're going to stream. I'm still looking for a location. This room is a potential candidate, and I applaud the county for its efforts to do this. I'm just not sure that with only 1 camera, I don't know if that's going to work. So probably more than you wanted to know. But anyway, that's where we're at. The dates, February 7th, 8th, 15th, and 21st. February 7th, 8th, 15th, and 21st, 5:30 to 8:30. We're building the calendar now. I'm going to give people an opportunity to put in for their preferred date. Questions?
If I recall correctly, even though you eliminated 3 out of the 32, which remains 29 potential projects to consider and weigh, and for the individuals to present their case for those projects, you're still over $31 million in total projects, correct?
Not 31 million.
Oh, that was 32 projects?
Yeah.
13 million.
Yeah, we're still pretty close to 13 million in requested amounts. Presentations are 10 minutes. We'll have a timer. And then the committee will have up to 10 minutes to ask Q&A. And then we'll move on. What happens after the presentations and we get the scores, we don't know. We'll figure that out.
I recommend Bobby to be the timer. She's doing pretty well tonight.
Thank you very much, and I do apologize for the lengthy update.
Thank you, Corey, very much. Good news. Next on the agenda, the itinerary, we have additional appropriations. The first one, somebody is probably going to have to explain a little bit. County commissioners are asking for an additional $1.933 million, $782, and additional appropriations. Is there anyone here that could explain that better than the information?
What happened was, at budget time, regional waste budget did not get advertised in a timely manner. Because county councils, we had nothing to do with their budget, but because county council has to adopt it, it therefore affects our budget, which took our budget back to last year's budget. We had the cash revenues to be able to do this, with a revenue loss of approximately $200,000 is what we would lose, which we will make back up next year, because then they will increase the rates next year to make up the difference.
So the entire budget or just that portion of the budget affected by solid waste?
All the entities' budgets got pushed back. They did.
So why is it only going in the insurance fund then?
Because what we did was, we had to take the budget and reduce it by 1.9, whatever it is, 1.933. Bobby and I had to reduce that budget. The easiest way for us to reduce the budget is to take it all from the insurance fund and then put the money back. Instead of going to every single department, reducing every single department's budget back to last year, we just took it out of one line item, which is what State Board of Accounts told us to do. If we could take it out of one line item, that's what we could do, and that was what we did.
And if you don't get a motion and a favorable vote, what occurs to the county?
You don't have any money in the insurance fund.
Not a good,
That was our only option. I mean,
Didn't you have you had to have our approval to take it out? You can take money out of the insurance fund without the council approval.
That didn't get approved. We didn't have an approved budget. We did not have an approved budget to do this with. I talked to you and Susan about this and explained to you that we were going to have to.
You talked to us, but you didn't tell me about the insurance fund. I would have been very hesitant to ever touch the insurance fund, considering the situation we were in when most of us got elected up here.
It's guaranteed to go back, I guess, unless you guys choose not to.
So where is the $1.9 million coming from? Our reserves, our cash reserves, which will basically eat up all of our cash reserves, our majority of.
No, because we rolled back almost that much from 21 to 22. We had about that much left in cash reserve that we moved back. So it is that once we collect taxes, we're going to make that money back up. We're only losing $200,000 in revenue, approximately $200,000 in revenue.
Okay, so where does our cash reserve stand then after this transfer?
I'll have to go look. I don't have that number off the top of my head.
so you say,
But I mean, you don't have to approve it. That's not a problem. I mean, we can roll everything back to everything. That is your guys' choice. We just did what we felt was the best way for us to do it with the guidance of Baker Tilly and State Board of Accounts.
so net loss is 200,000, not the 1.9 million?
No, net loss will only be 200,000, approximately, and it will be made up next year.
Okay, so over 2 years, there's no net loss?
There's no net loss over 2 years.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, and it's something they've taken to the legislators to try and change the statute to say that if a solid waste district does this, we're not the only one it's happened to. I mean, you can ask Paige, she's fought it. They're trying to change the statute to where just because you adopt it shouldn't mean if something like this happens that it has to be rolled back, everybody's is rolled back and not just theirs.
So that's a legislative work in progress that somebody's lobbying for.
If somebody will pick it up, but I don't know whether they will.
What's the druthers of the council? Do I have a motion to approve that, given the information Debbie shared?
I'd love to know how it impacts the overall fund. I mean, that $200,000, like,
I think,
Yeah, and I would definitely like to know the cash reserves.
I think it is coming out of cash reserves either to go into the insurance fund or all the other funds, right?
Well, I mean, our only other option was because we waited till the last minute to do the salaries and stuff. Bobby and I were gonna have to go line by line to reduce every single one. Once, if you did the additional appropriation, and we have to go back through and line by line, and I don't think you guys understand how much work that truly is. I mean, it's not just a matter of just, I mean, it took us how many days to do this, to figure out what our loss was, how we were gonna do it. It's easier for us to take it from one line.
That makes sense to me.
But our lot, this is money that was rolled back from this year.
I only want to know.
There to there, we lose $200,000 in revenue, approximately $200,000 in revenue that will be made up next year. Our cash reserves will be built back. This is what the budget would have been. Our cash reserves will be built back up once we get taxes.
That-
Any other questions or concerns?
Yeah, I just want to know that number. I will support it if I have a sense of what that context is. I feel like I can't vote in good faith without knowing how it impacts the reserves.
I'm
That's
still
all I want.
trying to understand our two choices. So we either do an additional from our cash to the group health and life, or we do an additional from cash to
No, you
everything.
only will do your
No.
additional to group health and life. If
No, I'm saying if we don't do that, which you
So-
said was much harder.
Then we will
So you're-
have to take the raises and everything. Yeah, we roll everything back to last year. Salaries, everybody's budget goes back to last year. If you deny this additional appropriation, the entire budget is rolled back to 2021.
But how does putting it in one line item make up the shortfalls that are going to be in 100 line items? Because
We
if,
left them as you budgeted them for this year. That we did not change. Every line item is budgeted just as you guys budgeted it for 2022. We only took the money out of one line item.
Because that had such a large amount in it, it was easier just to take it.
From one instead of taking it from everyone.
So just for the sake of understanding, not saying that we would do this, but we could approve an additional appropriation to every line item. That would be,
No, we didn't take it, no. You
Okay,
only
I'm not
approved an
understanding.
additional appropriation to this.
I-
We did not, if I run you a budgetary status right now, you're going to see in every single line item except for insurance, what you budgeted, what you approved for 2022. We did not change any single line item whatsoever.
but if we don't approve this, you're going to roll it back.
We have to roll it back.
And then, again, I'm not saying we do this, but we could do an additional, and you could move them all back up.
No, once you do that, then you're moving, you would have to go back in, we'll have to do amended salaries to move all the salaries back, and then we're
now,
back.
if you can do an additional in one line item, you can do an additional in every line item.
But
So,
you don't understand, you don't understand, why would I want to do it in every line item when I only took it from one?
I'm not saying we should. I'm trying to understand the process. I'm saying theoretically, that's what we're doing, is rather than rolling everything back, we are going to do it from insurance because it's more feasible to do work-wise.
Right.
But what we're really doing is reappropriating, right, additional funds in every line item.
Harold has a question.
Yes.
Can you use your microphone, Harold?
Debbie, now you say this would include the raises that we have approved for this year?
If you do not approve this, then yes, that takes away all the raises you approved for this year.
If we don't do an additional appropriation in general, everything rolls back, including the raises.
Yes.
Concur? Yes,
But
okay.
once you do an additional appropriation, this 1.9 million goes right back into the insurance fund.
Can one of you confirm how this will impact our cash reserves? That's just my question.
Yeah, it'll take me about a half hour.
A half an hour?
It'll take me,
Can you give me, okay, before you go into your office, can you give me a ballpark number?
no, I can't, I don't know, I don't remember what I did. I'll have to go back and redo it.
Let's move on to the next item on the agenda, if there's no opposition to that, because don't need to pause for a half hour. Additional appropriation for the Henry County Waste Management's $54,457. Part of that,
And that is also the same thing. Theirs is because of the shortfall.
okay, let's pause on both of those then. We have retiree payouts, Kim Carnes from the Sheriff's Department, $746. And we have Cindy Pitts from Clerks, $4,172.94. Do you have in your packets the breakdown of that, council members? Any questions before we open to a motion for Kim Carnes' $746?
Move to approve.
It's been moved, second. Bobby, you get who moved and seconded? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. We'd like to thank Kim for her years of service in the Sheriff's Department. I know she had a retirement party, so to speak. Several of us attended that. Sheriff, thank her for her years of service again for the council. Greatly appreciated. Cindy Pitts is from the clerk's office. She has a retiree payout of $4,172.94. Any discussion? I'd be open for a motion.
Cannon,
Yes.
mine shows a total payout of $7,617.34.
Okay, I'm trying to find that in my big packet here.
Back up, but on Kim, it's $4,269.39.
Okay.
Peg, the council is only responsible for the sick time portion. The rest of the payout comes from their department head budget.
Thank you, Chad, for that clarification. Does that answer your question, Peggy?
Yes, it does. Thanks, Chad.
Okay. I think the amount on the itinerary is correct, which Cindy's would be $4,172.94 for sick, which we are responsible for. Do we have a motion to approve that for Cindy Pitts?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, take all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion passed. The letter you have from Jennifer Grubbs, the county clerk, is that Cindy has put 28 years of service in, and we greatly appreciate that. Jenny Grubbs is not here, but we'll extend our thank you and congratulations to her. I read someplace, and I don't know if anyone has that, but she has a retirement. The 31st, that's a Monday. So that's over the noon time, I think, over in the clerk's office. So anyone who would wish to attend that, I'm sure she would appreciate the thanks and farewells. Next is the Community Crossings Grant. Joe Copeland.
Kenan, I think you skipped an item with the Newcastle Henry County Public Library.
You did, thank you. Newcastle Henry County Public Library, we have Steve Murphy, correct?
My name is Steve Murphy. I am an attorney for the Newcastle Henry County Public Library, which, as you know, is not only a library but a community center as well, with the auditorium and other facilities. Winnie Logan, your executive director, is passing out some materials. We are not asking for any action this evening, and we are not asking for any money from the county, nor are we asking for any backup to any bond issue from the county, but we are planning a pretty major remodeling that is going to require some bond financing, like your Boar's Head project. We're using Ice Miller and Baker Tilly. Baker Tilly's here tonight. We're going to keep this as short as possible. We will come back at the February meeting, and I've given to the county attorney a proposed resolution, because we must, whenever we're going to do a bond financing, we must look to an elected body, which is the Henry County Council, for approval and for a public hearing in February. We've had public hearings at the library in front of the board with no public opposition whatsoever, but we want to describe to you what we propose to do and how we propose to finance it. So I'll let Winnie lead off.
Well, thank you again for allowing us to have a few minutes of your time at the meeting today. If I haven't had an opportunity to meet all of you, I just again want to introduce myself. I'm Winnie Logan, director at the Henry County Public Library, Newcastle Henry County Public Library. And I'll give you a little bit of history about what we do at the library and why we're working on this project. So the Newcastle Henry County Public Library is one of 4 library districts here in Henry County. We serve all areas of the county except for Middletown, Fall Creek Township, Spiceland Township, and Knightstown, which are all served by their own library districts. And our library has a long history of providing services to the Henry County community and has operated out of our current location since the opening of the Carnegie Building in 1916. The most recent renovation to our building was begun in 2003 and completed in 2006. And we've seen many changes, obviously, over the past 106 years, not only in our facilities, but also in the services and the manner in which we provide them. So I have no doubt that when I say library, the first thing you think of is books. And that's a good thing, because books are still our biggest business. But the library is much more than just books these days. From the more traditional material of books, magazines, movies, music, all of those kinds of things, we now offer a variety of non-traditional items that we like to call our library of things. This collection includes items that are educational and useful for our community, but maybe items that people don't want to or don't need to spend and have in their own homes. So for example, we started out with a telescope. So people can come in and check out a telescope. And then we've added other things over the years. So now we have things like a stud finder, an energy meter, metal detectors, and mini projectors. So if you need any of those items, we have them at the library, and you can come borrow them from us for your own use. One of our other main services is educational programs for all ages. So these range from our tiny tot story times to a variety of programs geared toward teens all the way up toward our adult programs, and there really is something for everyone. We focus quite a bit of our energy on children's services because we understand the importance of early literacy and the positive impact of reading activities on children, on their academic success, as well as just their success throughout their lives. Over the last 10 years, the circulation of our children's materials has averaged 31.6% of the total circulation and has increased each year for the past 3 years. Attendance at our children's programs has averaged 52.6% of our total attendance over the last 10 years and has increased every year for the past 5 years, except for the year we lost of 2020 and COVID. I think that did lots of people in. But we knew that this project, through this project, we were interested in expanding our children's department and making better use of the space that we currently have. The last major service area that I would like to bring to your attention is our meeting room space. I'm sure that many of you have probably already attended a meeting in our library and know that access to our facilities is a huge asset for our community. Libraries now serve as community centers with meeting spaces, access to up-to-date technology resources, and support for small business and entrepreneurs. Over the past 3 to 5 years, we have seen an increased need for small group and individual meeting space. Patrons have requested the use of semi-private areas where they can participate in Zoom meetings, where they can make telephone calls and take proctored exams. So this is definitely an area where we can improve as we look toward the future needs of our community. The reason, again, that as Steve mentioned, that we're here is because our current library bond will be repaid in 2023. So in planning for the end of the bond, we realized that there were going to be probably some significant repairs and improvements that were needed, and the board decided that it would be beneficial for us to contract with an architectural firm to conduct a facilities study so that we would have the needed information about the expected lifespan of the current building and equipment, while at the same time making sure that we deliver a product that meets the need of our patrons without any tax increase. So in April of 2021, the board contracted with LWC to conduct the facilities study, and we found out from the study that there were several areas where repairs and replacements are needed. So after taking a look at that, this led us to begin working on our facilities master plan, which will guide us as we move forward with the needed repairs and upgrades, but also address renovations that will allow us to better serve our community in the years to come. The needs of our community continue to be our focal point as we move through this process to ensure that the project will meet the needs of our communities, again, without any tax increase. So right now, I will ask, I'll turn it over to Kevin McCurdy. He's the architect that we've been working with, just to give you a quick update on what we've been talking about.
Thank you, Winnie.
Thank you for everyone's time. My name is Kevin McCurdy. I'm an architect with LWC. We have an office in Richmond, Indiana, and an office in Dayton, Ohio. So For those who've been in the area for a while, it's formerly the Clinton Associates, so that's the C of LWC. As Winnie said, we've been working with the library now for, about 8 months, trying to come up with a plan for really two things. One is how to make sure that we're taking care of the assets that are already there. That's what the facilities assessment is about. The worst thing we could do is plan this great, phenomenal project and not take care of what's already there and leave the library with maintenance that they hadn't really fully thought through and anticipated and planned for. And then the other is just what you said, how do we improve what is there for patrons? What you're looking at, the first 2 sheets of that packet she handed out, are plans that indicate the extent of what is going to be done. So you've got an upper level plan and a lower level plan. Everything that has a color assigned to it, which is virtually everything other than the restrooms, is going to be impacted by the project. And a lot of that, like the yellow that you're seeing, is primarily end of life. If you go into the library, you'll see kind of frayed carpets, things that have well gone beyond their useful life. So that's what a lot of the yellow is just refreshing finishes within that space. The other colors are significant improvements, I'd call them. So the Bs that are in purple there, those are changes to actually the access points where patrons interact with the staff. The idea is to really get the staff up and moving and more engaged instead of large desks that they really kind of sit almost in bunkers behind to really improve that patron experience. There is a large blue area there on the upper level. That's what Whitney referred to as access to amenities really for adults. That's more of like a business center. There's clearly a need for people to, in this age that we find ourselves, to be working remotely, need access to technology, printers, meeting rooms. That's really what that space is about, is really adult kind of business activities. Down in the lower right-hand corner, that's an expansion of the teens area. Again, this is really library as community center these days. So right now, teens are kind of squirreled away and really don't have access to that main circulation, and it's fairly limited. And as we all know, teens kind of like to sprawl out and have space to kind of be away from each other while they're close to the couple of close friends that they have maybe. So that will allow them to be tied to the larger library and have additional space as well. On the lower level, you really see 2 major things, 3, I suppose, going on. The orange is really that expansion of the children's services, and I would say that's about half of the budget that we're looking at. Children's has always been fairly limited, so this is really going to expand the ability to offer large programs, small programs, have meetings rooms within that where families, homeschooling, other groups can really access and utilize that resource. The kind of pinkish mauve area there is really staff improvements, and actually a lot of that's a reaction to the space we're stealing for children's. We found that the staff area was really underutilized, so we're turning that over really to the public side to really give more back to the patrons to use those spaces. And then the green that's the meeting rooms that Winnie referred to. So a lot of that's improving the technology in those spaces. I mean, we're coming up on 15 years of technology. A lot changes in 15 years. So just really improving that so it becomes a little more plug and play and a little more readily available for what patrons need for meetings. And unless there are any questions with that, I'll turn that over to Baker Tilly, who will discuss the financing side. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Ryan Fetters with Baker Tilly, and I'm here serving as the library's municipal advisor. And so in front of you, I believe you have a handout that includes some financial information. And I'm basically going to cut to the chase to be respectful of your time and to allow you for questions. The end result here is the library is looking to support a $10.6 million financing. It will not increase the tax rate from where we are currently. So they have a bond outstanding from 2012, which is a refunding bond. They plan to issue bonds this year. And if we go straight to page 4, which looks like this, you can see that the old debt is the blue, which is roughly $850,000 of annual debt service they pay. So we issue the bonds this year. The tax rate comes online in the year after the year of issuance, which would be 2023 for these folks. And you can see where there's a little bit that bumps up here in 2023. And you might say, well, Ryan, you're increasing the debt service there. How is that not a tax rate increase? So the library is keeping within its, what is allowed to keep within its debt service fund a half year's payment, so we need to spend that down. And that's going to come from the balance they have in the debt service fund. They're not levying additional monies for that. So paying that down will keep the tax rate at the roughly, and you can see it here, 6.22 cents. Keep that level. That is the goal. So just to recap this, it's a $10.6 million financing we're looking at, 21 years, and there will not be a tax rate increase based on this. It's not anticipated to occur. So now, this is the fun part. So now I'm going to allow you to answer, or excuse me, ask, and I will try to answer any of your questions here, but I want to allow that time. But the end result is, this is a financing that they've determined is in their best interest to accomplish what they're trying to do with the library. It is a 21-year financing, $10.6 million, and it's not anticipated to be a tax rate increase. And it's anticipated we're going to have the issuance in the fall of this year. And we are basing this on the interest rate that is included in this at 4% interest rate, and currently bonds are selling around 2%, even under 2%. So we're showing, if you look through the presentation here, we like to be conservative as financial folks. So at 4%, which is pretty high, we're showing about an interest of $4.9 million, but we're anticipating it to be much less than that by the time we sell bonds in the fall.
Questions from the council?
Not a financial question, but just an observation. My mom's worked at the Middletown Public Library for 21 years, so, and I've been going there my whole life, and just in being a member there, I've seen how much space has changed, how much services have changed, and I'm reminded that in public spaces, there are so few public spaces where we can go and we don't owe anyone money or anything, and how important that community space is, and that's something they've worked on a lot recently. I'm excited to see more. So I'm very intrigued by the project.
Other questions from the council?
I noticed the interest rate. It seemed excessive, maybe an understatement, frankly, from someone who worked very closely on the jail bond.
Right.
And this is, with Jason and others from Baker Tilly, this seemed excessively high. But $2.5+ million in fees also seems kind of, if you're only taking 10.6, you're doing you're $5 million in interest, you're paying back 18.3. That's a big, I don't know that we have that much in fees and other associated costs for a $25 million bond for our new jail.
So let me back up a couple things, just answer a couple of questions or observations. With regard to why I'm using 4% for the interest rate and why that, when we say excessive, the reason I do that is because it's going to show greater debt service. So that if the interest rates rise, we're showing the council and the library what the largest impact possibly could be. So all that does is just show that it's possible within the term of this financing to accomplish this 10.6. But again, I think that I don't have a crystal ball, but the interest rates are going to be closer to 2.5%, I think, when we show that. But that's why I'm showing it, is just so there's no sticker shock. This is, when we go and go for the approvals, we're doing maximums, all right, so that we fit within a framework. But in terms of, go ahead and say your issuance cost, you said was how much?
Well, your page 5 shows that you're going to pay 18.2 back. You're borrowing 10.6. You got $5 million in interest. That's 5.6. That still leaves, well over $2.5 million in issuance cost to get to 18.2.
So there's no issue. So the issuance costs, we're anticipating, again, being conservative here, is more in the terms of probably $300,000. So when you say, I'm not clear on what you're saying, the interest doesn't come from the
I'm looking at
bond
your
proceeds.
Page 5 illustration.
Page 5,
your total payback is 18.229697.
Right. That's principal and interest.
10.6 of that's principal. $5 million of that is interest from your own chart on page 3.
Right, I understand that, but that's not issuance costs.
Then what's the other $2.6 million difference?
So there's $10.6 million. Oh, I see, I'm sorry. If you'll notice, I understand. Look at the years to the left. My apologies. I didn't quite understand the question. You'll notice that we're going back and showing historical information of 2021 as well, 2022. So that's where that extra debt service is coming from. That's the current. I'm sorry, I apologize. I didn't understand what you were asking. So in that far column right here, for the council's benefit here, what he's referring to is when he gets to this total, it is in fact true what he's saying. It's just that we're also including, to just show for historical purposes, what the debt service has been and is on the current bond that's outstanding. But that's not part of this financing. Does that make sense?
It makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, that's a great
Because
question. I'm sorry.
That number was extremely
Yeah,
high.
yeah, yeah. No.
Actually, we got paid to take out the bond for the
No. That's
25
an
million.
excellent,
So
actually,
that
that's
was-
one of the better questions I've ever been asked, but yeah, that's exactly.
It's concerning.
Yeah. No, that is not what that is. That is a total here that just shows what the total debt service is in the first 3 years. That is not this financing. That is just to show what the total debt service is outstanding. And if you look at that graph, that's the two bonds, the blue and the orange together. That's a great question. I've never been asked that, but that's a good question. Anything else?
Other questions?
I have a quick question. I don't
Yes,
know if it would be for you or someone else, but has any piece of this project been submitted to the Food and Beverage Advisory Committee as funding?
There is something with the library I've noticed this week.
Yes, we did. I submitted a request to help fund the business center portion.
And this bond would be supported by property taxes, just to be clear on that, right? So this would be, supported by property taxes and is the total revenue source. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions from the council? I think Betsy and I, Winnie sent out an invitation for elected officials, at least the council, maybe the commissioners as well, to visit with you. I think Betsy, I read that she did, and I did. Oh, you never made it?
We had an appointment and it got canceled, but I will take you up on it again.
I made it. I would highly recommend our libraries, all libraries, but tonight I'll do kudos to the Newcastle. Henry County is a treasure in our community. And I know during e-learning, we had people that don't have internet access, and they had a choice of hanging out at the parking lot of McDonald's or the library, and I know what I would choose. And I'm sure you had saw that uptick in people doing their assignments, their research, and it's great that we have those 4 public libraries. But the central and largest one by far is the Newcastle Henry County, and I was impressed with our meeting. Very informative, and so thank you. Corey has a question.
Question and a comment. I guess I'll go with comment first.
Thank you for going to the mic.
The comment is it's vitally important, vitally important for residents, right? But I just wanted to point out, when we're asked to do a tour for a prospective business, we include the library. It is on our route. If we have time, we go in. If we don't, I say, look at the beautiful facility. The programming and services match the facility. It is a tremendous asset. That's my comment. My question is, you said property taxes. Property taxes in all the townships, or just...
Keeping me on my toes tonight. Property taxes within the library district only. So as the library director mentioned, there are a few, and one of the council members mentioned, folks that are living in other library districts, such as Middleton, is that Middletown Library, then they would not be paying for this tax rate, which would, again, not be any increase from what they are paying now, but it's only the people that live in this current library district. Any other questions?
Probably a question. So are the districts, the townships, or go beyond that, Winnie? I mean, is it like Spiceland Township, Wayne Township for Knightstown, Fall Creek or Or does it extend beyond those actual towns? I don't know what the library boundaries are for the districts.
For Middletown, it's Middletown, Fall Creek Township, so it's basically Fall Creek Township. For Spiceland, it's a township library, so it's Spiceland, basically Spiceland Township. And then Knightstown is just Knightstown proper.
So it is based on township.
Yes.
So
Well,
you
except for
co-
Knightstown. Knightstown is a city, Knightstown is a town library.
Just the town?
Yes.
Okay.
And we serve the rest of that area.
So you serve over 3/4 of the county population in essence?
Yes.
Timekeeper's looking at me. Further questions?
No, really not, because my eye watch died. It's dead.
Oh. Other questions? Thank you very much, all presenters. It is a treasure of our community, and I see why Corey does that on the tour of prospective businesses looking at our area. It is a treasure. Thank you. If the council would indulge, I'd like to call Joe Copeland up because he has a 4 a.m. that he has to go to tomorrow morning. I told him we'd probably get to him about 6:30. And then we'll go back to the additional appropriations if Debbie is ready for that.
Thank you. Good evening. It's that time of year again, Community Crossing Matching Grant Funds application. I have put together an application for resurface projects. I'm asking, of course, for the full $1 million from the state. It involves 4 roadways. I'll tell you what those are. Finish Dublin Pike from south of 300 South down to Wilbur Wright Road, or where Dublin Pike goes to the east. 700 South from 103 to 25 West. 25 West from 500 South to 650 South, and Kennard Road from 450 South to 550 South. All of these roads are considered collector, either major or minor, on the state's functional classification map, which gives us a little more points with the state when we do collectors or arterials. What I'm here this evening for is I need a signature on our financial commitment letter that has to accompany the application, and the application is due tomorrow by 5 o'clock.
Timely. Is this a 20% match as it has been in previous local match as it has been in previous community crossings, or
75-25.
75-25?
So we have to match the million, we need $333,333.33. So.
Is that in your budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Low hut.
Okay. Low hut. Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
Sorry. Do you hear me okay when I said? I try to talk loud. I'm going to say at least 5 people in the last couple of months. Of course, they saw the roads being paved, and I told them I would talk to you or whoever I could. They feel like that we're putting too much interest in the primary roads and letting the other county roads go to heck. And I don't know. I have seen some back roads that look terrible. There's a bad, the asphalt's broke up. It's more like an asphalt road than it is a gravel road. And I don't know if you are able to fix any of those roads, or do they designate the type of road you have to do, Joe?
We split the money up, and we do resurface, okay, on those roads that, and I evaluate the roads based on the PACER ratings, and I also go out and look at the roads before we put them on the list. And we do low volume roads and we do higher volume roads. The thing that I look at is whether it's a collector or whether it be major, minor first on some of these, and whether how many houses are on the road, to split ties with those roads, because we get a lot of ties on those. But if we have one that's in serious problem, then we raise it farther up the list, yes. Our number one priority this next year is 200 south to the east. Yeah, that's one of our big ones.
I usually tell them I think it'd be best to contact you, and you'd probably be willing to take a look at the road, and that's about all I can tell them.
Here's the problem is it's very difficult to gain ground in 1 year. It's going to take probably more like 12 years to get everything caught up. That's if we don't have to go back. So we're trying to do things right to make sure we're not having to go back and do more work on these roads. But I'm hoping in about 12 years we'll have these things, we'll have most of the roads taken care of.
Do you want to allude to your priority map that's behind this side? Because that's the map that you provided us a year ago.
That was for 2021. We didn't get everything we wanted done because we got a paver late and we had problems. Weather caught up with us when that happened. So we did get approximately, I've been putting numbers together, approximately 51 miles of road that we covered, one way or another, whether we tore up an old chip seal and put it back to gravel, whether we chip sealed it, whether we strip paved it and chip sealed it, whether we paved it. But we've touched 51 miles. I want to do more than that this year.
Out of 770, out of about 770, is that our total miles?
Yeah, 777. Yes, that's our certified mileage from NDOT.
What rating, PACER rating, is that what you use?
That's the first thing I look at, yeah, because it depends on, you know, it goes from anywhere from 1 to 10. 1's terrible, 10's the best. And I look at it, 1, 2, 3 is, we may have to tear it up and start from scratch, okay? 4 is probably a resurface, or maybe even tear up, or a strip pave and chip seal. 5 could be a strip pave and chip seal. We're trying to save money by hitting the bad spots and chip sealing the remainder of the road. Saves us money.
And that's what each of those categories you just listed are with a different color on that map. And that was for 2021.
The different types of applications that we do throughout the county. And PACER rating of 5 is usually a double seal, a 6 is a single seal, a 7 is a crack seal, 8, 9, and 10 is good shape. So those are the things I look at first to get an idea of where the applications need to be done. And then I split it up in a percentage of how much goes where. I can send you all that. That's not a problem.
Any other questions for Joe? You have a signature someone needs to sign. You said you had to have it by tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I need the president's signature.
Okay. Come on up.
Okay.
Debbie, are you ready to answer the questions that were posed? Go ahead and share, and if there's any questions, it won't take me long here.
Two things I want to clarify. I did talk to Susan and Chad about the shortfall, and it's happening. Second, I didn't have to go to council to get approval to take it out of the insurance fund because that's commissioners, and I talked to the commissioners. So those two things. We have approximately 3.5 in reserve until I get the exact figure from the treasurer's office.
Thank you. I really appreciate you looking into that. I just feel like as an elected official whose taxpayers look to, I just want to know what I'm voting for and how it impacts the bottom line. I feel fine about everything you've done up to this point. I'm not questioning that. I couldn't vote for that in good faith without knowing that number. So thank you.
Other questions for Debbie? Lingering questions on the $1.933 million from group health insurance, which will be recouped in the future. Okay.
So I think at the risk of causing trouble, I'm just trying to understand how the process works. So how does the process work when you pay bills with this money that we are going to be taking out of life insurance? I mean, I'm just trying to...
This additional appropriation is putting it back in.
And we took it out to fund the rest of the budget?
Like, say, 500 for life insurance,
You reduced it to fund the rest of our budget. So it's short right now.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand what's happening.
Budget total line
Right.
down to what
Okay.
last year's budget was. That was what the difference was.
Okay.
So this money goes back into that line item, and then it's
Okay.
no longer short. And everything's back to where you guys had said.
So if you look at your budget transaction history, it doesn't say minus 1.9 million. It takes it.
So had you not taken it from life insurance, you would have had to short back every single line item, is what you were saying. Okay.
Other questions, or do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, the same. Okay. The other one that's additional appropriation is Henry County Waste Management, which Debbie said also is tied to this. So is it, any questions about this above and beyond what she's already answered?
And as far as their numbers, I don't have their numbers.
So their budget is short right now until we get this additional appropriation. Is that right?
Yeah, the resolution says that part of it that might explain your question would be, whereas the Board of Directors, the Board of the District has been informed by the District Manager that the district's recycling expenses have significantly increased due to the vendor increases, and whereas it relates to a marked increase in the recycling that we have through, I think, Best Way out of Muncie, maybe? Yes. So that answers that question. The need is, they've raised that several times, and Best Way is the only bid they've gotten the last 2 years. There used to be competition, and it doesn't seem to be a very cost-effective business. So, questions or a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded, $54,457 additional appropriation for Henry County Solid Waste Management. All in favor, aye.
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 Oh, just a second. Opposed, same. Any other discussion? Harold?
Do they still collect money from the
Yes, it's like a $6 off your tax bill.
I couldn't remember if I got one this past year.
Yeah.
Must have.
Oh, it's 12 now? I'd ages myself. Okay. It started out at 6, but that was quite a few years ago. You have a connection, at least for a few more months. Okay. Does that answer your question? We are charged for that under the waste management. It is a line item, and that's what funds them, and the whole district is funded by that. Okay, that's been approved. Let's make sure, Joe, keep me straight on the itinerary. Community crossings, ARP update. I'm going to let Susan say what she'd like to say, and then we've got a resolution and an ordinance that we discussed in our work session that I'd like to read. Susan, what would you like to share? Because you serve on that 7-member steering team for ARP, the American Rescue Plan monies.
Sure. Well, I think if you intend to read the Exhibit A, that's all that I would communicate right now. Were you planning to read Exhibit A when you went through?
I was. After meeting with Joel today, there's more than that I'm going to read, but Exhibit A is probably the go-to summary that you've been handed. This is the revision of the revision of the revision that you gave us right at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, Exhibit A was just what was in the resolution that was approved by the commissioners. It also is a copy for your consideration. It did correct the correction that was made.
Today.
It contains a correction that was made in the commissioners' meeting last night.
Okay, so what you handed me is the official update. Doesn't have Exhibit A attached, so.
You're probably looking at the ordinance. Here's the resolution.
Right. What was handed out earlier, Exhibit A is the last page of the resolution, and that's what Susan alluded to. And both of these should be approved
Correct.
by the council.
Correct.
And the relevant part was approved by the commissioners last night.
Yes.
Because it's relating to pay, premium pay, the council has to approve that part.
Yeah, the council has to adopt an ordinance because that involves payment of salary, and so the State Board of Accounts will require an ordinance for that.
I'm going to start, this will take me a few minutes, so indulge me, with the ordinance, which, before you leave tonight, make sure that if this is approved, motioned and approved, that everyone has to sign for this to move forward. There's some legalese at the beginning, but I'm going to start with, now therefore be it ordained by the Henry County Councils as follows. Number one, any current full-time employee of the county working in the Emergency or Medical Service Department, the Health Department, Sheriff's Department categorized as protective occupations and law enforcement, or in the Henry County Jail categorized as protective occupations and law enforcement or special occupations, or worked at least 1,250 hours between March 22, 2020 and December 31, 2020 shall receive a one-time payment of 385 hours of premium pay at the rate of $13 per hour, commencing with hours worked on March 22nd, 2020, and continuing thereafter until the employee is compensated, as described in this ordinance, for the first 385 hours worked after March 22, 2020, which was the starting date of the declared emergency by the commissioners. Number two, any current full-time employee of the county working as courthouse maintenance in the 911 department or in the community corrections department who worked at least 1,250 hours between March 22, 2020 and December 31, 2020 shall receive a one-time payment of 100 hours of premium pay at the rate of $13 per hour, commencing with hours worked on March 22, 2020, and continuing thereafter until the employee is compensated, as described in this ordinance, for the first 100 hours worked after March 22, 2020. Number three, any other current employee of the county who worked at least 1,250 hours between March 22, 2020 and December 31, 2020 shall receive a one-time payment of 100 hours of premium pay at the rate of $10 per hour, commencing with hours worked on March 22, 2020, and continuing thereafter until the employee is compensated, as described in this ordinance, for the first 100 hours worked after March 22, 2020. Number four, the payment made by any employee of the Emergency Medical Services Department shall be reduced by the sum of $700 to account for additional compensation previously provided to such employees as a result of the Emergency Medical Services Department receipt of an ARP rule payment. Number five, the payment made to any employee who worked a voluntary furlough during 2020 shall be prorated based upon the number of weeks the employee was furloughed during 2020. Number six, for purposes of calculating the number of hours worked, prearranged paid vacation and time away from work due to illness caused by COVID-19 or being required quarantine as a result of exposure to COVID-19 shall be considered as hours worked, provided, however, that time credited hours worked under the paragraph shall not exceed a total of 4 weeks of employees' normal work. That previously was 2 weeks just for prearranged vacation. Today, 2 weeks of COVID exposure, quarantine, hospitalization was added for a total of 4 weeks, 2 of each. Elected officials, volunteer, part-time employees, and any employee who primarily worked remotely during the period of March 22nd to December 31st shall not be eligible to receive premium pay. The total amount of premium paid pursuant to this ordinance shall not exceed the sum of $600,000. In the event the county auditor determines that more than $600,000 is necessary to make the payments described in this ordinance, premium pay shall not be made to any employee until the time at which the Board of County Commissioners and county councils modify this ordinance and the county's written plan for the expenditure of revenue received under 42 U.S.C. 803. The employee that has been receiving premium pay pursuant of this ordinance is determined to be eligible workers as defined in 42 U.S.C. 803 subsection G, section 2, which is the American Rescue Plan. Act. The county auditor and county treasurer are hereby authorized to make payment to eligible workers in the amounts described in this ordinance in a lump sum, less any applicable withholdings. And there's also severability and effective date, which be today, if this is moved and approved. And it needs to be signed as soon as possible if approved. Any questions on the ordinance 2022-4?
I have a question, Kenan. In this total, does this include the county's responsibility for taxes and perf in the $600,000 total, or is that money's beyond that? Because I'm worried there won't be enough to cover those funds. If there's 500, you said earlier about 550,000 would be paid out. Well, it's nearly 20%. Adding those two on top of it, that would put us to 650. My concern is that would not be enough funds to pay out the payroll, which
This is why it was added in there, that if it's above $600,000, nothing will be paid until it is determined. And we make a change.
Yes, and the other note to answer your question is, those numbers that we used to estimate were inflated. One example, EMS, the initial numbers we put in were 13, something like that, 10. And there's actually, because it excludes part-time, it'll actually only count 2 employees. And I think every one of those categories were inflated on purpose, that we erred on overestimating the numbers, even though I had Ann's and Wagner Irwin Shealy's worksheet. It was 6 months old. So we inflated every one of those categories. The likelihood is that would be covered, but it would come back to the commissioners as soon as it hits that 600,000 threshold. But that's a point well taken. I think we're covered with a buffer.
And I assume that we can use this money to pay perf and other things, because that would be our intent. The whole amount would come from here.
Good point, Chad. I'm glad you brought that up. But I think.
I have a question. So if we hit the 600,000 mark and we aren't allowed to pay out, we're not going to be able to calculate taxes and perf until we run payroll. So
Can we get an estimate? I mean,
well, I'm going to have to get, I don't know how you would do an estimate, but we're going to have to know the exact number of every single person that's getting it, and I'm not sure how anybody's figured out how that's going to happen.
So you're saying if you don't go through the whole payroll process, you don't know the final.
Figure taxes and perf, we have to go through the whole payroll process.
that's my concern, is we tell all the employees they're going to get this, and then all of a sudden they can't, and now we're 30 days out because we have to come back and approve something different.
They're going to be 30 days. It's going to be 30 days.
Well, it may be 60 days then if we have to stop everything and start over.
Well, I guess what Debbie's saying is even if, let's say it's all below 600,000, everything, it's still going to be 30 days out to process it all. It's not something that's going to be processed tomorrow.
Yeah, but if we have to wait until the 24th of next month for the council to meet again to vote, then that's going to delay the process even further. That's my concern in that number.
Well, again, we have a buffer. We felt pretty confident with that number. I think we inflated every one of the categories, and including your estimate of that 550 included the estimated number. So that was an inflated number I gave you at 550. That's given those inflated numbers for each of those categories. So it's possible. Worst case scenario, given what you just concerned, is we could hold a special meeting. That's the worst case scenario, but it's going to take them several weeks to do the calculations. And remind you again, Debbie, that it's full-time current employees. It's not employees that were on staff at 20.
That's going to be the department heads. I don't know.
Okay.
That's what next thing that someone's going to have to decide is how are you guys going to come up with these names and who gets what amount?
Well, I know the spreadsheet I had came from personnel, so there's ways. And this wasn't brought up at the meeting last night, so I'm not sure why it's brought up tonight, but that's okay.
Well, I know in your office, Debbie,
We can send out a transmittal, but but once you say it's full-time or part-time, or whether they work then or not, I don't have that determination. I can't say yes or no. That's going to be strictly up to the department
heads, yeah, it will.
Okay, so it'll require, and I'm sure every county that's doing this, And there's several counties that are not doing this because of the issues that we're discussing right now. They're not tackling. I mean, Jason from Baker Tilly said the counties they're working with, many of them are not giving any. They're not touching it because it's a sticky wicket.
So I mean, plenty of counties that didn't even take care of funding because of the issues.
Yes. So I'm glad that we did, and I'm glad that we're considered premium pay for those who were especially exposed during that time.
Bobby, did I hear you correctly? There are counties in this state that didn't take ARP money?
Yes, there are counties in this state that did not take our money.
Okay.
I think there's 10, is that right, Debbie? Something like that.
Well, okay, wow.
Peggy has a question.
So, okay, we are basing this on money from the federal government that we do not have, correct?
We have it. We were given $4.65 million last May.
We already have it?
It's deposited.
It's
We're getting
already
interest at
deposited.
whatever piddly
Okay,
rate interest
I wanted to make
is.
sure because I never really heard anybody say it's actually
Yeah,
deposited.
we received it last May, and we'll
Okay.
receive another $4.65 million this May. And that's probably when we'll open it up to the public, like food and beverage did, for the needs of the community at large. I will say, and correct me if your interpretation is different, Susan, that our emphasis on this first 4.65 is local government, because the discussion has been numerous things, including buildings and ambulances and whatnot, have been kicked down the road for years, saying we do not have the money for this, we do not have the money for that. So their emphasis is also on buildings that are falling apart, has been the discussion that we've had in the last month especially. Let's take care of Debbie suggested it, and other departments have wanted to digitize. As many counties have, we've not been able to afford that. Our records are filling the building across the street and elsewhere, and in the basement of the Justice Center to digitize. We haven't even addressed that yet, but that is a priority discussed. Correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, Bobby?
I agree.
Okay. The first tranche, the 4.65 million is local, is boost the county government, county businesses, employees. Second will be probably more like advertising to the public. Any other questions on Ordinance 2022-4? Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second? Does anyone have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve. And Betsy seconded. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 2022-4. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. I'll say aye, and so it'd be 6. Joe, we need to do resolution. And
You
this
also
is
need to approve the same resolution the commissioners approved last night.
a copy of this, and
I think, yeah, I just handed it
I
to you.
gave you guys a copy of that the commissioners approved.
this is the ordinance. I need the resolution. Thank you. It's in my piles here. This is resolution. I do not know the number of it, and maybe that's not germane right now. This is an update to the resolution that was made passed by the commissioners earlier. The first part is legalese. That's exactly what's already been approved. Whereas on November 17th, 2021, the Board of Commissioners of Henry County adopted Resolution 2021-11-17-013, in which established a written plan for the expenditure of sums received by the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, and allocated in a sum of $1 million to contribute to the cost of improving the sanitary sewer line that will serve the new Henry County Jail and Rehab Center. And whereas the Board of Commissioners wishes to amend the written plan for expenditures for additional uses of revenue received through the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. And now therefore it be resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Henry County as follows. Henry County hereby adopts the written plan for expenditures of revenue received from the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund as set forth in Attachment A. Exhibit A, which is what I just read, alludes to. And this was passed by the commissioners last night as I listened to it at home. Written plan for expenditure of funds received through the Coronavirus Local Recovery Fund, Exhibit A. The sums received by Henry County, Indiana from the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund shall be utilized in the following purposes. $1 million to contribute to the cost of the new sanitary sewer line that will service Henry County Jail. Number two, $600,000 for premium pay to certain employees of Henry County, Indiana, as described in an ordinance to be adopted, which just was by the Henry County Council. Number three, $100,000 as hiring bonuses for new employees accepting employment as jail officers at the Henry County Jail and Rehab Center after such facility is open, and that's 10 $1,000 signing bonuses for up to 10 new hires. Number four, $50,000 to retain an employee whose job duties will consist of selecting and writing grant applications on behalf of Henry County, in part to obtain additional funds for the purpose of addressing the negative effects of COVID-19. Number five, $400,000 to obtain one or more for use ambulances for the use of the Henry County Emergency Medical Services. And at that meeting, we discussed three ambulances, $400,000. Number six, $8,700 to obtain an assessment of the physical conditions of certain buildings owned by Henry County for the purpose of determining any necessary modifications or repairs to the buildings, including repairs or modifications necessary to respond to the public health emergency with respect to COVID-19. And that was an engineering firm's bid quote for doing so. And I think that was DLZ, if I remember right. Any questions from the council?
I need clarification on paragraph 3. I thought it was $10,000 and then a $1,000 bonus per each new hire.
$1,000 for 10. We are how many? I think when we open the jail will be something like 15.
I think you
Officer-
read 100,000, 10,000 per.
Oh, I'm
each.
sorry, it's 10,000 total?
Total, correct.
10 times 1,000.
Okay.
And if I misspoken, thank you for correcting me. And that is allowable under ARP as an incentive. I know the sheriff's on the phone, but we are at least 15. When we open the new jail, we're 15 correctional officers short of what a study told us we need to be. Other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve. Do I need the resolution number, Joel?
You have the resolution from yesterday.
Resolution number 2022-01-26-001.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-01-26-001.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same. It's been passed. Thank you. Liaison appointments for each council member. Like for me to read these? Council liaison appointments, assignments for 2022. Abatements Committee is Chad Malcote and Peggy Steffendale. For now, the ARA is pretty much handled by the commissioners. We do have an ongoing owner-occupied grant of $250,000 that was approved by Okra. We decided not to have a liaison necessarily. It's not necessary for that. Assessor is Peggy Steffendale. Auditor is Chad Malacote. Clerk and voter registration is Peggy Steffendale. Commissioners is Kenan Gray. Community Corrections is Kyle Allen. Coroner is Betsy Mills. Correctional Detention/Jail, Kenan Gray, Susan Hoon, Chad Malacote. Drug Abuse and Mental Health, Kenan Gray, Kyle Allen, Peg Steffendale. Eastern Indiana Regional Planning Commission is Betsy. Economic Development Corporation is Kenan, and help me, I don't know if Susan or Betsy.
I offered to, but I'm happy for Betsy to do if she'd prefer.
Arm wrestle.
No, Betsy.
Betsy is the backup. Extension Office is Susan Hoon. Health Department is Kenan Gray. Highway Department is Kenan Gray. Insurance is just an ad hoc, and that's me. Job Classification Salary Advisory, Chad Malacote, Betsy Mills, Kyle Allen. JDAI is me. Memorial Park is Susan Hoon. Planning Commission is Kenan Gray. Probation is Kyle Allen. Prosecutor is Kyle Allen. Public Defender is Kyle Allen. Lowett is Harold Griffin. Susan Hoon, Chad Malacote. Recorder is Peg Steffendale. RDC is Chad Malacote. Sheriff 911 is Harold Griffin. Solid Waste Management is Kenan Gray. Surveyor is Kyle Allen. Treasurer is Betsy Mills. Unified Courts is Kyle Allen. Veterans Office is Kyle Allen. Our meeting dates for 2022 are today, February 22. Basically, it's the fourth Thursday of every month except November. It falls on Thanksgiving, so that would be November 17th. We'll make a decision on, did we make a decision on December? It could be the 22nd, but if we get closer to that time, it may be the week prior to that, which would be the 15th. We'll decide if that's too close to Christmas. The last 3 years, we moved it to the third Thursday. Meeting times have been changed to 3:30, which what it had been historically until 3 years ago, except when there is a hearing, which we know September, October is a budget hearing, I believe was said, at which time it would move back to 6 p.m. 3:30, fourth Thursday, except November that we know of for sure. Any questions? We have appointment to the RDC board.
Move to approve the liaison appointments.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve or appoint the RDC board as you have in your packet. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. It's been moved to appoint the RDC board. Appointments to the Newcastle Henry County Public Library.
The press would like the list.
Oh, you can have that. Yeah. I don't blame
Chad,
you.
Kenan.
Yes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Chad made a motion to approve the liaison, and I seconded.
For
Is
the
that what
Henry
you-
County Public Library, Newcastle Library, or RDC?
No, for our liaison appointment, and I didn't know if you thought that was
Oh, I didn't know that
RDC.
that had to be.
I
yes.
don't know if
Do
it
you-
did or not, but that's what Chad and I were doing.
Okay,
so
well,
I think we
I'm
confused
sorry.
you.
Let's-
Sorry.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the liaison as read. Yes. Yes, Harold. We're going to talk about that because I got ahead of myself. Just, yes. While we moved and seconded, and I got ahead of myself, was the liaison appointments. And point of information was our meeting times and dates. I should say appointment to the RDC board. Input, questions, comments?
I have a question.
Motion.
Debbie, I know you mentioned that you posted these. Did you post RDC in the paper?
I think so, yeah, it was everything that we did in December.
Did we have, I didn't have a chance to see it.
Except for Scott.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
Scott's.
I just wanted to
no,
make
I did
sure.
not. I'm sorry, RDC's just came, no, RDC's did not get advertised.
So we did not advertise that.
No, I did not get it.
Druthers of the council?
I guess I would, Scott is an institution with the RDC. He formed the RDC, and I doubt we could scour the earth and find a better representative for the RDC. So I guess I would speak on his behalf, and I mean, I certainly understand we could advertise, but I think we might get to the same end result.
We might, but we also set a precedent with advertising. I'm going to vote for Scott, obviously, but unless someone, I can't imagine it anyway, but we do have a precedent.
Druthers of the council?
I think we need to advertise it because we've done it for everybody else without anything negative towards Scott. I do think that we can improve the speed that we advertise with, and I think that you'll be a good one to do that. So, yes. Well, no, I did not know that.
Hopefully,
We've been doing it for-
that bill passes the state legislature where we need to advertise it just on our website, so.
Were they good to know 2 years ago?
Yes, there is a bill for the legislature to, online only would be required, they're optional. We'll see in the next 2 months if that passes or not. And Corey, you had a question or a hand up? Absolutely.
Whether you advertise or not, and I'm probably stating the obvious, but that is an internal policy. It's a policy that you control. That always has not been the case, and that doesn't mean it should or shouldn't happen. I understand the perspective of wanting to advertise. Let me offer you a different perspective, and not just with the RDC. I'm involved in a lot of boards. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm involved with a lot of boards. And what this does, and I don't think you mean to do it, but what it does from the board perspective is it creates an immense amount of uncertainty. Specifically among the Tourism Commission. I'm really not talking about the RDC, I'm talking about the Tourism Commission. They don't know whether they've been appointed. And I counsel them and say, you serve until you're replaced. But that doesn't feel good. These are volunteers that have agreed to serve, and it creates a lot of uncertainty. So much uncertainty that the Tourism Commission did not meet in January. For a variety of reasons. One of those reasons was the uncertainty around whether people were going to be appointed. And so I just wanted to offer you that perspective. I can tell you from the Redevelopment Commission perspective, we have the project that I talked about earlier going. We have a lot of other things going on too that are not at the point to talk publicly. The gas is, our foot is on the gas with good stuff. I would appreciate certainty, but I also respect the perspective of advertising. Thank you.
And thank you for your perspective. Yes, Harold, go ahead.
Joe, where do we stand on that legally?
But legally, you don't have to advertise. I mean, it's been an internal policy that was adopted some time ago, I think. I think you're probably the only member that was around when you guys started doing that, and so it predated that, and you have done it in the past. But legally, with all these appointments that you're considering tonight, you're not required by law to advertise.
I have a comment and a suggestion. The comment is, over the past 2 years, I have delayed a lot of people's appointments because of this internal policy we made. So if we waive it for Scott, I think we have to keep waiving it. We can't just waive it for Scott, in my opinion, and then go back to advertising. The suggestion is, if we had a list of all of our appointments and we knew when they needed to be made, we could always address them internally a month before and not delay the appointment potentially. That's just one thought.
Okay, Susan's point is consistency. If we do this for Scott, we need to have this new change in policy. And I think we're all, having heard your thoughts in the past, all in favor of consistency, so we're not treating one individual or appointee or applicant different than another. Other thoughts and druthers, given light of new information that's been shared over the last 5 minutes?
How many of our applicants for appointment would we be saying the same things about? And then it kind of begs the question of, is it necessary for the appointments and the advertising, or the advertising of the appointment going forward? It's not legally required. It costs money to do it.
I think the point of the council, or the objective, I'll say the objective, was to bring to light what the appointments were and make sure that the community had an opportunity to put their hand up if they wanted to serve on those boards, right or wrong. I think that was our objective.
To me, it's an issue of transparency, I think. And usually we already can anticipate who's going to apply, and they're the right people. But I don't know. I think Susan's made a good point. I'm still wrestling with how to do this best.
Well, I think we all agree we need to be consistent.
And we need to be timely. It has felt very awkward to me, as I tell people. And I think last year we messed Scott's up. I messed it up for 2 months. I think he didn't know until the end of February that he had been.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
You can always hold a special meeting to appoint. You don't have to wait till the end of February. You could always hold a special meeting to appoint.
Just
So-
as we talked about premium pay, if we needed to,
Yeah, if
we
you needed
could.
to. We've done that. As commissioners, we've done that because we didn't want to wait another 2 or 3 weeks, so you could always have a special meeting to appoint.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I think Corey's biting at the bit to get to the microphone again. The addendum to your prior.
I'm not lobbying for exception on Scott. I'm not. I'm taking a more global view, and then I would ask, was the Tourism Commission included in that advertisement?
That was advertised a long time ago because we did that and they denied that November or December. They denied that in December and I advertised that in December.
Denied.
When we not denied it, sorry, tabled it. In December, that was Donna's.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was tabled December, advertised it. I didn't get anything on it.
Okay. I just was just curious from a process standpoint. If they've already applied, do they need to reapply again?
Donna sent another one back in again. That's the library board.
That's the Spiceland Library Board, right?
Spiceland Library Board, she was the only one that I
Right.
got from hers. She said she sent it to you and Ken, and I didn't get anything from her.
And then also, can you remind me her name from the Tourism Commission? I'm spacing it. No, that's,
It's Jessica Feltz.
yeah, it's Jessica Feltz. And then the Library Board is Donna Tauber.
No, Donna Tauber then is tourism.
Really?
But I the only one I have for tourism, is Donna Tauber.
April Isaacs was Spiceland Library.
April Isaacs was library.
Yeah, Spiceland Township Library.
Okay.
Right, and Phyllis Rowland we have one for Phyllis Rowland on the library that you have tonight.
I believe you have 2 appointments to the Tourism Commission.
We do, and I'm sitting here wondering if Jessica didn't submit a letter but just texted me.
I didn't know anything about that one. I did not see that one.
You got something from Jessica?
I saw
Did I
an
pass it
email
along?
from Jessica,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so I passed it along. Okay, good.
I saw an email from
So
Jessica.
that's a reappointment, and I believe Donna Tauber is your other reappointment. They're on staggered terms, and that board is comprised. There's a party affiliation there, and so not to point it out, but Jessica fills the Democrat seat on that, and Donna fills the Republican seat on that.
Is that Harrison Township?
No, it's not specific to Township. I'm talking about the Tourism Commission.
Okay.
So, Debbie, you advertised in general for the Tourism Board, is that right?
Whatever Donna's was, yes.
Just a general advertisement for the tourism? Okay, so we could vote on both of those.
If there was any guidelines, I didn't know.
So the RDC is the only thing that didn't get in that advertisement?
What's the druthers of the council, starting with RDC board appointment? I've heard,
My opinion's been made, so I'll let the
Debbie, sorry, Chad, I've got a question about the advertising that just popped up. For each of these positions you advertise for, like these are all about at the same time, but they were all separate advertisements? Okay, so state law requires them to be separate. We couldn't combine and save money or anything? Okay.
No, I just do it that way. State law doesn't tell me that I have to advertise these in any way.
So hypothetically, as we're considering our plan moving forward and we have a grouping of appointments, like at the beginning of the year, we could combine them into one rather than all separate.
That's your call.
I'm just thinking through this money.
That would save money, consolidating.
But most of the time, your boards come in here and there sporadically, one at a time.
Right, I'm just thinking, strategically, we can save a bit of money here and there, but just if we do it all together.
Oh, this may be the exception. Tonight we have 5 that might have been grouped advertised, and that may be the exception, but that would save some money if we could do that. And that sounds like that's the druthers of the council, to save money. Heard that theme before. Okay, do I have a motion or a final recommendation we can motion on for the RDC board? Then we can talk about the others. It's for you to decide.
I make a motion to table unless we first decide what our policy is going to be.
Okay, let's have a motion on the policy from this day forward to be consistent. Stay the same or change?
Okay, wait a minute. Susan just made a motion on tabling RDC. Can we finish that motion first?
She had a nuance footnote to that.
Let it die.
She's made a motion to let it die. What is the, do we have a motion for our procedure to appoint these board members in the future from this day forward, being consistent? Do we have some motion how to proceed starting January 27th, 2022?
Susan, I liked your language. I'm not quite sure how to phrase it, but I would add that when we do have multiple appointments, that we would combine the advertisement to save the county money.
What did I say the first time?
Internal policy, month ahead.
Okay, that we would advertise a month ahead. So is the onus on us as a council to advertise a month ahead, and we're going to appoint timely as a priority?
Is that a motion? I think that's what I've heard everybody say would be good policy from this day forward to do that, so we're not delaying or punting.
What about this? What if we did appointments like quarterly and we appointed in advance, give us a chunk of time, we research exactly what appointments are coming up for that year. We know those dates and times. We make sure we have all the letters. Does that make sense?
Corey's laughing at us, so I think
does,
we better.
Guys, I think we're making this very difficult.
Well, we are.
By and far majority of our appointments are in January.
Okay.
That is the by and far majority of our appointments are going to be in January. So
I'm hoping there's a list, but maybe that's a horrible thing. Okay.
Well,
But if we went through our meeting minutes for last year, we'd get a list of everyone we appointed the last year, because it'd be in all your meeting minutes.
are you talking about a calendar? Just a calendar? January, we appoint this, and this. February, this.
Essentially.
Yes, Chad. Like our liaison appointments, just a sheet that says these months, this is the majority that I recall is being in January. And Corey's chomping at the bit.
I'm not trying to make this complicated.
Mr. Chairman, permission to speak?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Save us.
Council Lady Mills, I appreciate your thoughts of doing it ahead of time. Let me tell you where I think the wheels fall off on that. It's in an election year. And if there's new people coming in, they may not appreciate appointments in December for the next year. So earlier I said I wasn't lobbying. Now I'm going to lobby. Your boards are doing the work. The people that work with the boards are doing the work. They're making recommendations. If someone's interested, they will usually show up at those boards and be engaged and they'll know when there are vacancies. And they'll apply that way. So what I'm saying is I understand the need to be transparent, but I don't know that advertising in the newspaper accomplishes that. And no offense to the newspaper, but how many people read the legal notices?
I think one of,
Well, there was also a front page article about the Planning Commission too.
so maybe what serves, I want the opportunity to have input into who sits on boards. I see that as part of my job, and even tapping someone who hasn't been tapped in the past. But maybe, again, the onus is on me to have a calendar and know what appointments are coming up. I think at the end, I think that we need to appoint in a timely fashion. And we still can advertise if we choose to do that. If we advertise earlier, or if we just, pass out an email to the council and say, does anyone on the council have someone that they would recommend for our upcoming appointment? But it comes down to us knowing who we need to appoint ahead of time.
I know I would benefit from just a calendar of what's upcoming so we can be more timely. Because we have punted several of these, and I definitely hear Corey's plea to this has an effect on people and uncertainties on individuals that are putting and volunteering their time. So one last time, do I have a motion?
So I'll make a motion.
Policy.
I'll make a motion to change our internal policy to require advertising before appointment. And I think it comes to us as a council coming up with a calendar, but either way, I will make a motion to change our policy.
And would you include Betsy's consolidating where feasible advertising?
To consolidate advertising when feasible, and to create a calendar internally of appointments so that the council members have an opportunity to look into those appointments before voting.
There's no way that I'm going to repeat that motion. Do I have a second?
Second. Corey, does this satisfy?
I'd be happy to help you in the areas where I'm working. I'd be happy to help you create that calendar.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we change our internal policy to what Susan said and to consolidate advertising so we can be more in a timely fashion, and attached to that is a calendar we'll work on internally. Did we have a vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same.
No.
Okay. Motion passes, and let us consider, once again, appointment to our DC board. Your druthers. Motion.
I think since we just passed a policy, I don't think we can do any act in this. I mean, as much as I would like to make a motion, I'm asking the council to just turn around and forego the policy they just passed 30 seconds ago.
Okay. So we'll move on.
Can we consider the special meeting later in the month that we would advertise for Scott's
We could
position?
always.
Get him in there as soon as
Special
possible?
meeting, as long as it's advertised 48 hours in advance.
Scott will still remain a part of the board until such time as the council chooses to replace him or vote on it. So I don't know that it's not like he automatically goes off now because we haven't made a decision. So I think that would kind of be a moot point.
That's what I understood
Are you
Corey to
saying
say earlier.
that we need to operate underneath what we were under before with them?
Sure.
No, it's just, if we have not voted to replace, then the board member will stay in place until such time that we vote to either place them or replace them. Does that make sense? If we haven't replaced them, so it doesn't automatically December 31st, everybody on the board would drop off because the board still has to function. We can't.
But his term is ended, hasn't it?
His window has, but the past practice has been that they remained in that position until such time as they're replaced.
Redevelopment commissions, that statute specifically says you serve a term of X, and until such time as your replacement is
Okay,
qualified.
then that makes everything work. Okay.
So yeah, so he's on it. I think that statute specifically provides.
Okay.
He's on it.
I apologize for the confusion.
Appointment to the Newcastle Henry County Public Library. I'm trying to find the page of that recommendation. Do we have that before you, council?
No, that accidentally somehow got put in with the commissioner stuff, so you guys haven't seen it.
The Newcastle Public Library?
I thought I saw it in here earlier.
It was not, it's the first time you've seen it, it was not advertised.
Oh, it was not advertised.
No, because the commissioners passed it by accident at their last meeting.
It was put into the
It was put
commissioners,
into their
Nancy Cook
stuff.
was put into the commissioners, and it wasn't realized till after our meeting that it was not a commissioner's appointment. Joel, I think I asked you, you said that they could just,
Yeah, I mean, the council's gonna have to take action on it one way or the other. I mean, if it's not.
Do we take action after they take action, or can we take action tonight?
Since it wasn't a commissioner's appointment, what they did really doesn't matter.
So we need to clarify that.
Okay. I thought I made a motion to drop our internal policy. Okay,
And we voted on that.
to drop it.
Okay, I heard it.
You said to change the policy to advertise before any appointments are made.
That was what you said.
That's what you said.
I think that it came in two separate pieces. This is the motion I intended to make, but.
And it was two separate pieces, that's why I didn't,
I intended to make the motion that we drop the internal policy, that we have to advertise before each meeting, and instead commit to appointing in a timely fashion, and instead manage an internal calendar that each council member could have an opportunity. Okay. All right.
So you withdraw
So you want to withdraw your motion?
even after we voted on it.
Yeah, you'd have to make a new motion.
You can amend anything in Robert's Rules of Order. You can take it back. Absolutely.
I didn't rephrase her multiple compound sentence motion because I couldn't remember
Sorry.
the two. No, it's not your fault. I couldn't restate it verbatim.
Okay. So I'd like to rescind my convoluted motion, and I can try again, or someone else can.
We voted it, so we have to vote as a council to remove it all. Yes, so we have to revote on,
Okay.
we have to
I'll
vote
second
on the removal, sorry, Harley Pro.
What did we get? I didn't hear. I heard two people.
A motion and a second to rescind the
Is
motion.
that a motion and a second to rescind Susan's prior?
I'll second.
It's been seconded. All in favor of rescinding that prior motion of Susan, say aye.
Aye.
Those same? That's been passed. Now, Susan, you have an opportunity to make your motion, and we're going to say it very slowly so that Debbie and,
Chad wants to take a crack at it.
okay, or Chad.
Okay, so I make a motion that we make it a policy of the council to act in an appropriate, timely manner, but we are not required to advertise prior to the appointment.
Do you have that down, Debbie, or does he need to restate part of it?
Policy to act in appropriate, timely manner to advertise.
But we do not have to advertise.
Can we add to that, that when we do have multiple appointments, we combine them into one?
We said we weren't going to have to advertise.
Right, but does that mean you will never advertise?
Thank you for your patience, Sheriff. Are we okay, or do you?
you can advertise anytime you want to. You don't have to set a motion right now that says we're going to do it in a combined.
I
Chad's
agree.
motion can do it, and anytime you guys want to advertise, that's.
My motion just says it's not required, but it doesn't mean we can't do it, and we probably will do it.
We probably will in December for these major
Yeah, that's the intent of my motion. Thank
Would you like to restate your motion that it is no longer a requirement, but an option?
I could add that if I could add that it's no longer required, but an option.
I'll second.
Are you okay, Debbie, before we move forward? Are we okay on the South 40? Thank you. It's been moved, Chad's motion that Debbie wrote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. It's been passed.
So now I will make a motion that we appoint Scott Hayes to the RDC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion to appoint Scott Hayes to the RDC Board? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. It's been passed. Appointment to the Newcastle Henry County Public Library. I did see that earlier. It is Nancy Cook. And you should have that in your packet dated January 1, 2022. Do I have a motion to appoint?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to appoint Nancy Cook to the Newcastle Henry County Public Library Board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same. It's been passed. Appointment to the Spiceland Township Public Library. I heard earlier that there might be two people. The one I recall is April Isaacs, who I took care of her. Okay, what's the current? Any? First name, Rowland.
Phyllis.
Phyllis Rowland. I know her too. They're both South Henry people in the school corporation. Thank you for the clarification. Do I have a motion for Phyllis Rowland to the Spiceland Township Public Library?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Phyllis Rowland to the Spiceland Township Public Library Board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. It's been passed. Appointment to the Alcohol and Tobacco Board, that was Jean Clark. Do I have a motion to appoint Jean Clark to Alcohol and Tobacco Board?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Jean Clark to the Alcohol and Tobacco Board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. It's been passed for Jean Clark. Appointment to the Henry County Tourism Board of Directors. And I think I heard a Tauber and a Feltz. Can somebody give those names to make sure we've got those names correct so we can have a motion?
The one you have in your packet is Donna Tauber.
Donna Tauber.
Can we add Jessica Feltz also? Donna Tauber is our a Republican appointment, and Jessica Feltz is our Democrat appointment.
Feltz, F-E-L-T-Z.
I move we appoint the two.
Second.
Donna Tauber and Jessica Feltz. It's been moved and seconded to the Henry County Tourism Board of Directors. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. That's been passed. Insurance update, I sent a copy to you last night. If you was unable to see it or to print it, let me know and have a few extra copies. In short, we're at 102% of expected, which should be okay. Last month was average. The July, August, September, and October was quite a bit over. November was under. December was average. We're at 102%, which is much better position than we were in 3 months ago. Any questions about that? And see me or text me if you'd like a copy. I do have a couple of copies up here. With what we budgeted, at the budget hearing, as of right now, we're okay, subject to hopefully no large claim months. Food and beverage, I think Corey covered that. He gave you the meetings of 5:30 to 8 on February 7th, 8th, 15th, and 21st. Ultimately, by the end of March, they are to present their recommendations to the council for consideration. AIC conference, is there anything you want to say, Chad, at all? I know you attended both days. Bob?
You know, for the sake of time, I think we've already talked about some of the most probative parts throughout the meeting. So.
I do not disagree with you. And we've already covered the meeting dates and time, which has been moved to 3:30 starting in February. Dakota from the Courier Times asked for a copy of that, and I will do that. Any other business before the council? If not, community, anyone from the community who's stayed this long like to comment? Corey, any other words of wisdom? No? That comes next. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, third, fourth, fifth, we're adjourned. Meeting date 5:30. No, 3:30 on February. Are there any other signatures before everybody leaves that Debbie needs? Debbie does have forms for the council to sign who's left. Harold had to leave a little early.